Hello, my name is Danielle, and I'll be presenting the Colorado River, water scarcity, and the future of fresh water in the American Southwest. So, how did the river get here? Well, it all started around 70 to 40 million years ago when the Laramide orogeny first formed the Rocky Mountains, as well as the Colorado Plateau, which was formed by the subduction zone boundary when the tectonic plate was subducting over the Sierra Nevada, California region. And then through the millions of years, as well as through 500 million years ago, when there used to be an ocean going through the central basin of Colorado, there was a deposit of sedimentary rock, which is where the river flows through primarily, as well as the sedimentary rock with occasional pockets of igneous metamorphic materials entering the basins through presence of Arizona and Nevada. Geography. One of the major rivers in North America, it starts in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. The Colorado River spans around 1,400 million miles, or million miles, sorry, 1,400 miles, where it eventually discharges into the Gulf of Mexico, spreading over about 246,000 miles across 7 states. And we'll talk about those 7 states a little bit later in regards to water rights. It was given the nickname of the Lifeline of the Southwest because it is characterized by a deep cut gorge that kind of looks like a vein running through a pretty desolate, dry area, which isn't very much known for supporting wildlife or human life. And it also drops around 10,000 feet in elevation from its highest point to its lowest point. Now, where does the water go? The water provides 40 million people of fresh water from the Colorado River. And that goes to those 7 states that I mentioned earlier. Those include Wyoming, Colorado, California, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Arizona. And those 7 states were part of the 1922 Colorado River Compact, which was pretty hefty in relation to California, needing a large amount of water to supply a large growing population. And it divided the Colorado River into two drainage basin areas, the upper basin and the lower basin, which were then divided into subcategories, providing those mentioned states with their water right allocations. And it's also used by various indigenous tribes, and it has a very deep history of indigenous tribes using it as a prehistoric canal irrigation system for their crops way back when, which are pretty much characterized as prehistoric. Now, in the modern times, there are about 30 federalized recognized indigenous tribes by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation that all have water rights. And as of December 2020, those tribes held diversion water rights of approximately 3.4 million acre feet, which is actually pretty insignificant looking at the other acre feet that's allocated to other areas. So how's it managed? Again, it's around 7 states. It's actually 2 countries. There's a pretty hefty history of water rights of the Colorado River being argued against by the United States and Mexico, with those upper basins and lower basin supplying those respective states, with basin waters being allocated for both agricultural and municipal, industrial, homes, urban areas like that, with the largest reservoirs including Lake Mead and Lake Powell being held by the Hoover Dam and Glen Canyon, respectively, holding 26.1 million acre feet and 23.3 million acre feet. Now, 80% of the water of the Colorado River is actually diverted to support crops, specifically thirsty crops like alfalfa, which are grown to support other agricultural industries like livestock and cattle that are actually exported to other countries. And again, a growing population also increases the demand of fresh water around that area of the Southwest, including for industrial, commercial, and agricultural. Water flow and depletion. So, according to the Bureau of Reclamation, the 23-year period from 2000 to 2022 was actually the driest 23-year period in more than 100 years of the Colorado River record keeping, and it was among the driest periods in the last 1,200 years, which is extremely significant, with a historic average rate being 14.6 million acre feet, the current one being 12.4 million acre feet, and that's just from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. There are other statistics going around, such as the average flow being declined by 20% since 2000, as well as a projection warning basically saying that if we don't do anything to combat climate change because of rising temperatures, we see an increase of evaporation and lowering water levels, saying that if there was an increase of 2 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit by 2050, we could receive reduction of 10 to 40% already on top of what we have now. Ecological impacts. So the environmental impact reports that were first established when these programs were put in place were actually put in place when the Endangered Species Act was passed. So when the Endangered Species Act was passed, there were many different programs. One I wanted to highlight was the Upper Colorado Endangered Fish Recovery Program, and that was signed by the various governors of the states listed, as well as the Secretary of Interior and then Administrator of WAPA, which is another program established within the Colorado River. And this program establishes minimum stream levels, basically saying it can't get to a certain level or else it's not deemed inhabitable to these specific fish, as well as habitat restoration, the removal of non-native species, and it's also funded by multiple stakeholders, both nonprofit and federal. Ecological impacts in terms of the Colorado River, it's a river. It provides riparian habitat for both wildlife and humans. It's extremely crucial, especially to endangered species that rely on moist environments to survive, like salamanders and such. And this specific river flows through actually 7 national wildlife refuges and 11 National Park Service units alone, which is extremely significant for one source, for one water body source to touch multiple different protection areas, which is good because it means that a lot of the areas are protected, but we should be keeping in mind. Other areas of the river support important recreational opportunities, including whitewater rafting and camping, as seen to the left. Are there any solutions down the line because of the water scarcity levels that are happening? Well, according to the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, there are some DEIS alternatives. One being the non-action alternative, basically meaning nothing gets done. The second one being the basic coordination alternative, basically reducing the lower basin deliveries based off of Lake Mead. The enhancing coordination alternative reduces overall deliveries based off of Lake Mead and Lake Powell combined, so that's both upper and lower basin, taking both of those numbers into consideration. The maximum operational flexibility alternative, which reduces delivery on a priority basis based off of a dual indicator of basin-wide reservoir storage and groundwater hydrology. It's basically saying how many people are down the line, who needs it here and who needs it there, prioritizing it that way. And then there's the supply-driven alternative, which is a little bit more similar to the maximum operational flexibility, in which it determines delivery shortages based off of both Lake Mead elevation with delivery reductions at differing elevation levels, both priority and per rate basis. Now, what's next? Basically, it's a part-time fix. Arizona, California, Nevada are offering to cut back on the amount of water they want to take by the river. They're seeing it being up to an additional 1 million acre feet annually through 2028, which wouldn't be very much considering that it's a 23 million acre foot capacity just in one reservoir alone. And there is a mediator that's trying to help find a solution between all the different states who are looking for different solutions, with also the Assistant Secretary of Water and Science, Andrea Travnik, basically saying, given the severity of the risks facing the Colorado River system, it's imperative that we take action quickly because it supplies water to 40 million people, it supports vital agricultural, hydropower, tribal, wildlife, recreational uses, and everything else in between. So that's my presentation. Thank you.